welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Great Lakes Honda City coming to you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York for sales and service. They're open Monday through Saturday. It's the only place that I have gone for over a decade, including my 2025 black on black on black Honda CRV. You could go to greatlakeshondacity.com to see their inventory today for buying and leasing, as well as new and used vehicles. So with that being said, I'm picture in picture with somebody that I was with just a couple months ago when the weather was a little bit warmer in certain parts of the country, and that is Blake Harrell, the head coach of the East Carolina Pirates football program inside the 2025-26 season. Last season, he took over during the season as the interim head coach, and this season he went in as the official head coach after being a coordinator on the staff. Mr. Harrell, how are we doing today?
Good, Dan. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. And, what I appreciate, Blake, is, building relationships on and off the air. You know this, but it goes beyond wins and losses for me. It's the character of the human being. And we've gotten to talk off the air. We've gotten to keep in touch. And I walked away from the last conversation we had just thinking to myself, like, I really like this guy. I like what he stands for. I like the energy that he brings around him. So I'm happy that the Pirates are winning. But I want to start off the conversation by simply saying to you, I'm happy that you and I are building a relationship that goes a lot deeper than the pigskin and who ends up winning the game at the end.
Well, I appreciate it. And I say this all the time, like the game of football and just athletics in general allow you to do so many things that we're blessed and fortunate enough to do. Meet people, build relationships with people, see things, and so many things that you wouldn't get to do if it wasn't for athletics.
Yeah, well, I think the game of football brings us together, but what keeps us together is caring about a lot more than just simply, how many wins come through or how much NIL money this or this and that. I think the sport brought us together, but the quality over the quantity is what keeps us together.
No doubt, and I think that's always what it is. You make a lot of good friends throughout this thing, and a lot of good buddies that maybe you don't work with on a day-to-day basis, but somehow you've kind of got to know, whether it's the coaching side, operations side, or broadcasting side, that you kind of develop friendships with and relationships with, and that makes it special.
Yeah, 100%, and I value this one. So with Mr. Blake Harrell here with us today on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we're looking at a time of our conversation that there is a lot going on in the American Conference. I've covered this conference since before it had a name or a logo. It's been over a decade for me, and it was coming out of the Big East into the American when Mike Oresco was the commissioner, and having a lot of great talks and a great relationship with him, and then building a great relationship with Tim Pernetti. So as we're talking at the time of conversation, inside of the conference, we have Navy at 5-1, South Florida at 4-1, Tulane at 4-1, North Texas at 4-1, East Carolina at 4-1, and we got a few games to be played. Just what you can say to where the conference is at, Blake, knowing that your team and many teams are still very much alive. This is not a top-heavy conference. This is a conference that's got a lot of people that are throwing haymakers trying to get to the end of this boxing match and have an opportunity at the American Championship.
Yeah, I think what the American Conference has done not only this year, but really the last 12 months. If you go back to last bowl season, I think our conference had like 4 or 5 P4 wins that had matchups in the bowl season, and were able to get some wins there. And in this season alone, you've had 4 or 5 different teams in the top 25, maybe 6 different teams receive votes in the top 25. And then, so I think we got 5 or 6 P4 wins this year. I think Tulane's got a couple. Memphis has obviously got one. USF has a couple. So certainly some guys that's made some noise nationally. And then within our conference right now, it's just everybody's pushing to kind of make this last finish strong and make sure we can kind of see where things fall and let it kind of chips play where they go. And I think you got a race for first place right now, and see who's going to play in that championship game on December 5th and see how it plays out. And like I tell our guys, there's a lot of football to play. We can't really focus on who's in first or what the tiebreaker is or who plays who. We got to worry about the Pirates and take care of business one day at a time and focus on the process.
Yeah, and you speaking on just where things are at. I mean, I'm looking at your schedule this season, and you're 4-1 at the time we're talking in the Conference of the American. You're 6-3 overall,
Yeah.
and your non-conference schedule had the likes of NC State on the road, who you have that rivalry with within the state of North Carolina, and then you have BYU, and you look at what's happened since then. So outside of one loss in the conference, the two losses out of conference, two NC State on the road and two BYU at home, those two games, BYU was undefeated up into a loss to Texas Tech and is ranked in the nation's top 25, top 15. And then NC State handed Georgia Tech their first loss of the entire season. So those games that you played, albeit losses, you played to one possession with NC State. What do you learn from those games? Because the NC State team that you faced ended up going on and doing something that nobody else did against Georgia Tech. And then that BYU team was a team that went on to go undefeated until they took a loss to Texas Tech. So those games, I'm sure you learned a lot from. And those are two teams that have been in the national spotlight, either for beating a team that was undefeated or for being an undefeated team.
Yeah, there's no question. NC State and Dave Doran, those guys did a great job up there. And you're coming off a bowl victory against those guys and at their place to open the season. So there was a lot of hype on that game from our fan base and their fan base, obviously. And I didn't think we played well the first half, and came back in the second half, showed a lot of resiliency, and got all the way down the 10-yard line with less than a minute to go, and got stopped on fourth down. And it shows you how close we are. And I thought after that we grew a lot. And then, as you mentioned, we had a good BYU team coming to town. I think defensively, they may be one of the best in the country. I think, like you said, they were 7 or 8 last week before they took the loss to Texas Tech, and they just really fly around. And we made a couple of silly mistakes right before the half in that game. I think it's 6-3 with about 3 minutes to play in the half. We throw a pick in the red zone, and then we make them punt. They punt back to us. And we have the ball on 1 yard line and throw a pick six, and they go up 13-3 at the half. And it could have easily been 6-6. I think they were probably the better team, overall. And obviously we're that day. But I think we could have played them better than we did. And then we played at Tulane in the conference on a Thursday night down there on national TV, and have a chance to win that game. We actually throw the ball into the end zone, and it goes off one of our guys' fingertips to try to tie that one up as well. So the 3 losses, 2 of them have been really, really tight, and one of them kind of got out of hand. But at the end of the day, they're losses. They are what they are. We got to do a better job. We got to grow from them. We can't necessarily look in the rearview mirror. We got to look out the windshield and focus on Memphis now.
Yeah, you look at, speaking of Memphis, you look at the Tulane-Memphis game and what Tulane was able to do against Memphis recently. And then, I was going to go to the Tulane game that you just mentioned. That game was tied 19-19 on the road for you. You're down in New Orleans, Louisiana. The game is 19-19 after a field goal by Nick's. Nick's field goal at 5:48 left in the fourth quarter by Mazzy. And then we have the 35 seconds left in the game. Tulane wins 26-19. Jalen Gordon's the 4-yard pass that he caught. So I'd love to go back to that because there's a lot of national hype about Memphis and there's a lot of national hype about Tulane. But you got Memphis coming up, and in that Tulane game, we're talking under 6 minutes, tie game on the road for East Carolina away from home, and they end up getting the separation with 35 seconds left. What did you learn about your team, and what did it say about your team to play Tulane as tough as you played them, knowing that Tulane team has only gained heat as the season's gone on?
Yeah, that's another game. We were down in halftime, didn't play well in the first half. We're down 12-0. They got down, I think, 5 red zone trips and only came away with 4 field goals. And we were just unsuccessful moving the football. Had a few injuries that day on the O-line and got in some negative play situations that didn't help us out. And then battled back in the second half to take the lead. And as you said, they kind of took the lead again, kind of lead changed us there. We bounced back, tied up, and then they had the final drive that they get down the field. They go for it on fourth down, convert, and we actually run out of timeout. So now we had to make a choice. Are we going to die slowly, let them kick the field goal inside the 10-yard line and lose that way? Or, the choice we took was go ahead and let them score, try to get the ball back, go down and match it. So I think it's, a little bit of a chess match there. I think you have about a 4% chance of him missing the field goal and you winning the game that way. And you have about an 8% chance if you go ahead and let him score analytically. And that was the route we chose. And we did have a chance to throw the ball in the end zone to win the game. But I think, on the road at a tough place to play in Tulane, a really good football team, well coached by John Summerall. I thought our guys showed some resiliency. And we talk about, hey, our back is always against the wall, and we got to go play it with edge and energy and effort the way we want to play. And certainly we've done that since then.
Yeah, when you talk about since then, a 3-game winning streak, 2 teams toward the bottom of the American Conference when we talk about Tulsa and Charlotte, and then playing a team that's right in the middle that has a 500 record in the conference, the Temple Owls and Casey Keeler at 3-3. Bring me into these last 3 games as you get set for Memphis and what it says about your team beyond simply looking at, the win-loss column. What did you take from these last 3 games after that 1 possession game against Tulane to go 3-0 since then?
Yeah, you played Tulane on a Thursday night down there, beginning of October. You turn around, play Tulsa back at home on another Thursday night. Had 4 different Thursday night games this year. No Saturday games in October, which is a first. And then finally, about a week ago, we played our first day game at home in Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium. So it's been a wild season as far as the schedule goes. But bouncing off the Tulane game, I knew our guys were just ready to go at it. I thought we played really well at times against Tulsa and did some good things. And then we have another week off and then go into Temple. And a lot of folks were worried about, hey, you had 16 days off over a half a month of no football between Tulsa and Temple, and a lot of folks worried about starting slow or just being stagnant, those type of things. But I didn't have that fear. Our guys were eager to get back on the field. They had that feeling around the locker room, around practice, just the way they attack things, and probably went up to Temple and maybe in a challenging environment. You're playing in the link with, whatever its seats, and you only have a few seats filled, and can be a place where you're just kind of dead sometimes. And I thought we played our best game of the year. We had really good energy up there and jumped out to a good start, 14-0. They tied it up 14-14. And we're talking about a Temple team that's, as you mentioned, Casey Killer's done a great job, much improved from last year. Got them on the verge of being bowl eligible for the first time in probably half a decade and just playing good football. And then from that point on, we just kind of went on a run and did some really good things on both sides of the football. We turned the quarterback over for the first time all year. He hadn't thrown a pick going into the game. And then, last week for homecoming, we come back to Dowdy-Ficklen, first Saturday game since September 20th in Dowdy-Ficklen, first day game in Dowdy-Ficklen of the year. And, against a Charlotte team that, quite frankly, kicked our butt the last 2 years. We were 0-2 against them. They beat us 2 years ago in homecoming, beat us last year down there in an embarrassing loss, and that was fresh on our players' minds. And we try to make it about us and how we prepare and how we do things. But that was still in our mind, and just winning the game and get off to a really good start, got up 28-0. It was up 35-7 at one point, and they scored out for a half to make it 35-14. Ended up winning the game, I think 48-22. And played really well to start the game. I thought we kind of got a little sloppy when we got up. But you see that, hey, we're really hitting on all cylinders right now. We talk about making it a November to remember. And our players will certainly do that. This is really about the time we got hot last year. I think I've been the head coach for 15 games now. And last November, we kind of made a run at it, and that's kind of why I'm still here. And done really well. And, it's a credit to our coaching staff, everyone that works in our building, and our players doing a great job.
Yeah, like you said, between being the interim and the official head coach, 15 games for you. When you are the interim head coach, does anything, now that you are the official head coach, does anything feel different? Do you feel like you can't make certain decisions? Do you feel like, you're the head coach, but your hands are kind of tied? And I ask this question because I look at what's happened in certain places. I look at, Arkansas firing their head coach, and then they elevate Bobby Petrino, and Petrino within the first 3 days fired 3 people on the staff. And I'm like, I didn't even know interim coaches could do that. So, when you are an interim, do you feel like it's kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out? Is it 2 feet in? How did that experience go for you when you reflect back on that?
It certainly doesn't end up the way it did. That's, you look at 99% of the jobs that come across America, and it doesn't work out for the interim and that staff, and they end up moving on and hiring a whole new staff. And
Yeah.
credit to our coaches, everyone in the building, players. We didn't worry about what was coming in December. We focused on the most important thing, and that was the day. And as the interim, I think your job is to kind of keep everybody pulling the rope the same direction. And if you can pull the rope the same direction, you have a chance to be successful, and that helps you. Obviously it helped us. We won the game one and kind of got on a little streak there, and things went well. But that is your main focus when you're the interim, is to get everybody going in the same direction, keep everybody with a positive attitude, keep everybody with good energy, and playing hard. And if you'll do those things, you'll have a chance. To me, when you're the interim coach, you can't change, defensive side of the philosophy or the offensive philosophy or any of that. You got to just keep rolling. And our coaches, our big motto was, hey, grown men finish what they started. And let's go finish this the right way, and let's finish it for our seniors who are going through this last season. And let's try to get them to a bowl game, and we were able to do that. And I think the big thing that changes, like when you are the interim, you're putting a little bit of your taste on it, and you're trying to do it, but you're really kind of keeping the group together. When you come in the full-time coach, you can kind of lay it down like, hey, this is our exact vision for our culture, our philosophy, how we're going to do things, and all that stuff. And when you're the interim, you're trying to get, even the stragglers, you have some of those guys, you're trying to pull them along the best you can. When you're the full-time coach, you do that. But at the same time, if you have a cancer or something like that within your team, the best way to take care of that sometimes is cut it out, and it helps other guys. When you're interim, you can't necessarily do that. I think you just got to keep pulling everybody along. And you do that as the head coach, but at the same time, you got to do what's best for your team and your program.
Yeah, when you become the interim head coach, you were the defensive coordinator. And so I know that as you became the official head coach and no longer the defensive coordinator, you kept the offensive coordinator on staff, and then you brought in Josh Aldridge, who was over at Auburn for a couple seasons. So I love to, now as we're in the season looking at this, when you're shifting out of the coordinator role to the head coach role, and then officially the head coach role, bringing in Josh Aldridge, and just why you trusted him to lead the defense, which is something you had done. And let's be honest, sometimes it's hard to let go of something that you've been building. And then in John David Baker's side to say, you know what? He was the offensive coordinator. He was working under Mike Houston, but I like him. So just those two decisions that you had.
Yeah, Dan, it's definitely certainly hard to let go of some things sometimes. But, I think I looked at it like this. Like, I would not be here. I would not have the job if it wasn't for our coaching staff. Our offensive coaches, defensive coach did a phenomenal job of keeping our players together. And I'm a big believer in the guys that are in the foxhole with you. Those are guys you can trust, and certainly through that process, we had our back against the wall. I mean, it was you could have, and I'm sure like coaches were going home and their wives were talking about how's things going, where's the next step, where's the next process, what's going to happen in December. And our coaches, to their credit, kept their focus straight ahead and looked out the windshield and really helped our players get through it. And we were able to go 5-1 down the stretch there, which I thought was phenomenal. And that's why I got the head job. And why would you make changes if that's the case? And those guys have been awesome for the last year. And I thought, bringing Coach Aldridge on board was an easy decision. I've known him for years, and just thought a really good recruiter, on the road, and just a motivator, very intense, high energy, and does some things philosophy-wise how we've done them in the past, but has some new things we could add to our toolbox. And just really fit, myself and our coaching staff really well.
So now we look to Memphis, and we look at a place that you're in right now, as we spoke about how this is a very, very fruitful conference, and there's a lot of teams that are fighting for the opportunity. You being one of those teams here, Memphis is right behind you in the standings. They're 4-2 in the American. You're 4-1. There's a big difference between being 4-2, flipping and going under them, or being 5-1, and depending on how some things shake out with Navy and South Florida and whatnot, where that could land you. So just bring me into this game and like you said, playing so many Thursday games. Congratulations, this is a Saturday game, and having Memphis. Not only this matchup with Memphis, but knowing you're going to be at home and
right.
You'll be at East Carolina. So just bring me into this one.
Yeah, I mean, you're facing a very good Memphis football team who's preseason favorites to win the conference. Have been in the top 25 a couple times this year. Beat Arkansas earlier in the year. I think was the first team in college football to beat bowl eligible earlier in the season. And just Ryan Silverfield's done a tremendous job there. I mean, he's won over 50 games. The last two seasons, he's won double-digit games, and certainly looks like he's on the path to do that again this year. And I know his name keeps coming up for a lot of different opportunities out there, but he certainly made the most of it in Memphis. And the guys he have under him, their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator, I think they both do an exceptional job. Their guys fly around, play the game the right way. And we are blessed to be back in Dowdy Ficklin this week and for our last home game of the season. So it's senior day for us as well. And, it's really pretty special that you're playing meaningful games at East Carolina in November. And I'm not sure the last time that's happened. I think it's been about 10 years, 2014, where they felt like they were in this position. And we're just blessed to be a part of it and have them back, have a game here and have a game such as Memphis, an opponent such as Memphis to be a big ball game. And I think, sometimes your fans, they get excited about those type of opponents more so than maybe an opponent that's struggling a little bit. So I feel good about our crowd come Saturday and the energy that'll be in our stadium.
Heck of a senior day to have, all the implications that it has. And like you said, in front of your crowd, I mean, playing meaningful games in November is whatever coach wants to do. And this one is extremely meaningful. And it is going to be in front of these Pirates. I mean, that they travel as well, but to have an entire Pirate Stadium just ready for it, excited about it, like you said, Dowdy Ficklin and everything that is and the excitement that comes from that. Before I let you go, I do want to also, just take a look at something that I think is more than just coach speak, and that's complementary football. When we see teams, because I've watched it this year, teams that have a really good defense that keep giving the ball back to the offense, but the offense can't score, or an offense where a quarterback's leading and they got a lot of talent there and skilled players, but the defense, every time the offense scores, the defense gives up a score, or special teams where you can't trust your kicker to make that long field goal at the end of the game, so you're going for it on 4th and 10 or 4th and 6 because you feel like you have to. So I'd love to get your thoughts on East Carolina as far as all three phases working together and where you think that's at right now comparative to where it was at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I think we're playing really good team football right now on both sides and special teams included. And I think it's really just about our young men in our locker room and our coaches about how they want to play for each other and how hard they want to play. Whether it's the turnover battle, I think, offensively, we finally had our first fumble, knock on wood, a couple weeks ago against Temple. So we've got 2 on the year now. I had one this past week. Caden Hauser taking really exceptional care of the ball this season. And I don't know exactly where we're at in the country on stats. I don't really pay attention to that stuff, to be honest. And then defense, I know we're taking the ball. So that's been a huge focus of ours through the offseason. And every Tuesday in practice, we start with ball security and ball disruptions. And then another big one is just rushing the football and stopping the run. And I think last week we won the rushing battle 183-40. We won it the week before that. And that's been consistent in every win we've had. And even going back to last season and the 5 games we won last season, we rushed the ball for over 200 yards in all those wins.
Yeah.
So that's, a lot of people think about, the offense that Coach Baker runs, and we run here at East Carolina is spreading you out, taking shots down the field, make you play sideline to sideline, kind of that Art Briles system, Tennessee system. But we're down to committing to running the football and got some backs that can do it. And O-line continues to get better and better. They've probably been the biggest the position group that's made the biggest jump this season is our offensive line. And then defensively, just kind of making sure we stop the run each and every single day out. And that gives us a chance to get after the quarterback. And I think we've done a really good job of that throughout the season. So all that goes hand in hand. That makes a huge difference. And just feeding off each other. It's not, like you said, it's not asking the offense to carry the weight or the defense to carry the weight. And then we got some guys playing exceptional on special teams as well. And our kicker, Nick Mazzey's been Special Teams Player of the Week a couple times this year and doing a really good job of just putting it through the uprights. And the guys, they're playing in the forecourt there, just playing their tails off as well.
Blake Harrell and the East Carolina Pirates playing for plenty here in the great month of November. Blake, you get the last word, whatever you want to say. But the last word when it comes to East Carolina and the Pirates, I'm going to leave it up to you. What do you want to say?
Yeah, huge thank you to all the Pirate fans out there, Pirate Nation. and what you do for us, our program, and especially for making Greenville a place where football matters. And our guys are excited to finish out the season the right way, to be back in Dowdy-Ficklin this Saturday, and have another opportunity to try to go get a W against a good Memphis team.
That coming from Blake Harrell, East Carolina Pirates head football coach, leading your team here in 2025-26. Shout out to Blake, to the entire staff, and all the student athletes and all the work that they do. Blake, as always, it is my honor and my privilege, and I always love talking with you, so I look forward to the next time already, and I appreciate this one.
Yeah, appreciate you, Dan. Take care.